What if some of the most popular psychology words on social media are actually making relationships worse? Not because therapy is bad, not because mental health awareness is bad, but because somewhere along the way, words that were designed to help us understand human behavior became labels we use to explain away human behavior. Today, everyone seems to know a narcissist. Everyone has a toxic ex. Everyone has been gaslit. Everyone has experienced abuse. And while every one of those things absolutely exists, we have to ask ourselves a difficult question. Are these words helping us understand reality more clearly? Or are they helping us avoid responsibility for our own growth? Today, we're talking about the labels we put on other people, how social media changed the way we think, how therapy language became everyday language, and how increasing our emotional capacity may be far more important than increasing our vocabulary.
Every lesson is a lyric in the universal song. Oh, the lessons of the journey, I'll weave them in my song.
Welcome back to Lessons of the Journey, the Real Life Playbook. I'm Coach Nicole here with Coach Jen. Today we're diving into a topic that has been on our minds for quite a while because we keep hearing the same words over and over again. Words like gaslighting, narcissist, toxic, abuse, boundaries, bullying. And what's interesting is that most of these words started from a well-meaning place. People finally had language to describe experiences they couldn't previously explain. And that is important. Mental health awareness has helped millions of people. People who felt broken suddenly realized there was a reason they felt the way they did. People who experienced manipulation finally had language for it. People who experienced trauma finally understood they weren't weak. People who struggled with anxiety and depression learned they weren't alone. And that is a powerful thing. In these instances, the problem isn't awareness. The problem is what happens when awareness becomes identity, or when awareness becomes accusation, or when awareness becomes a substitute for accountability. One of the people we've been listening to lately is Raquel, the capacity expert. And one of her ideas really hit home for me. She talks about how so many people are trying to eliminate discomfort rather than increase their capacity to handle discomfort. Now, that is a profound distinction. Relationships aren't comfortable all the time. Parenting isn't comfortable all the time. Jen, you can attest to that one. Building a business isn't comfortable all the time. Growth definitely isn't comfortable most of the time until you've grown. Mm-hmm. And if every uncomfortable experience gets labeled as toxic, abusive, narcissistic, or dangerous, then we never develop the skills needed to handle life. Today's conversation is not about dismissing anyone's pain. It's not about minimizing abuse. It's not about questioning trauma. It's about accuracy, because words matter. And when words matter, definitions matter.
You know, I'm a crazy weirdo definition word girl.
We love that about you.
Let's talk about the rise of therapy language. We'll start with the good, because I totally believe mental health awareness has done tremendous good in the world. I am pro therapy. There was a time when people suffered silently. People were told to toughen up or get over it or push through it, or just don't even talk about it. Now people understand concepts like anxiety, depression, trauma, attachment, emotional regulation, PTSD, and grief. And all of these things are progress. But something interesting has happened over the last decade, especially through social media. Researchers have started talking about something called the pathologizing of normal human experience. What that means is we are increasingly interpreting normal human struggles through the lens of a diagnosis. Think about how often you see it. Someone feels sad. They wonder if they're depressed. Someone feels nervous. They wonder if they have an anxiety disorder. Someone experiences rejection. They assume they've been traumatized. someone hurts their feelings. Now that person must be toxic. If someone disagrees, they must be gaslighting you. Here's what concerns us. The more we explain every human experience through pathology, the less confidence we have in our own resilience. We start seeing ourselves as fragile. We start seeing ourselves as broken. We start seeing ourselves as collections of symptoms instead of seeing ourselves as capable human beings navigating life. One of the reasons I love the concept of capacity is because it changes the question. Instead of us asking, how do I avoid discomfort? We begin asking, how do I become stronger than this discomfort? Those are completely different questions. One leads to avoidance, the other leads to growth. And growth has always required discomfort. The gym works, it's uncomfortable. Learning works, it's uncomfortable. Difficult conversations are uncomfortable. As Nicole mentioned, parenting is uncomfortable. Relationships in general can be uncomfortable. Growth isn't evidence that something is wrong. Growth is often evidence that something is changing. We've started confusing discomfort with danger. That's one of the themes we'll talk about through this episode. Not every uncomfortable thing is dangerous. Not every person is toxic. Not every conflict is abuse. And not every challenge is trauma.
So let's start talking about gaslighting, because this seems to be the most overused word on the internet right now.
Yeah.
The reason it became popular is because real gaslighting is incredibly damaging. The term originated from a play called Gaslight, where a husband intentionally manipulated his wife into questioning her reality. He would move things in her environment. He would change things, then deny it happened. The goal was to make her doubt her own perception. That is gaslighting. It is not disagreement. It is not conflict. It is not remembering things differently. And it is not saying, I see it another way. Real gaslighting is a repeated pattern of manipulation designed to make someone question reality itself. And here's why this matters. If we start calling every disagreement gaslighting, we lose the ability to tolerate differing perspectives. And relationships require that ability. Every healthy relationship contains moments where two people remember things differently. Every healthy relationship contains misunderstandings. Every healthy relationship contains conflict. But the question becomes, is this person trying to manipulate me intentionally? Or is this person simply seeing the situation differently than I am? Those are not the same thing. And one of the healthiest questions we can ask ourselves is, could there be another explanation? Notice that doesn't invalidate our experience. It simply creates room for curiosity. And curiosity is where growth lives. When we immediately jump to labels, curiosity dies. And when curiosity dies, growth usually dies with it.
Oh, shot through the heart. Okay, this is such an important conversation.
It really is.
The next word we hear far too often, narcissist. Let's be real. If social media is to be believed, about 99% of the population is a narcissist.
Including you, including me, including everyone listening.
That's your kid. Every ex is a narcissist. Every difficult boss is a narcissist. Every parent who ever hurt us is a narcissist. Every selfish person must be a narcissist. Except that's not how psychology works. Narcissistic personality disorder is a clinical diagnosis, and it's relatively uncommon. What is common? Selfishness, immaturity, insecurity, poor communication, lack of self-awareness, fear, ego, unhealed wounds. Those things are everywhere. Yeah, inside of you too. And they can absolutely create pain, but pain alone does not equal narcissism. The problem with labeling someone a narcissist is that it often ends the conversation. Once I decide you're a narcissist, I no longer need to examine my role in this relationship. I no longer need to ask those difficult questions. What attracted me to this relationship? What boundaries did I ignore? What red flags did I explain away? What lesson am I supposed to learn here? Notice that is not blame. That is responsibility, and those are different. Blame says, it's all your fault or it's all my fault. Responsibility says, what can I learn from this? Remember, growth always lives in that second question.
We have watered down the term narcissist so much that I'll be honest, I've looked online, am I a narcissist before? Well, that person's a narcissist and that person, oh, it's scary. It really is.
That's what this entire episode is about. It's the watering down of these words. These words really, truly mean something when used in a proper way. And what Nicole is saying is exactly true. We have watered them down such that they really don't mean what they were intended to mean anymore. And we just start diagnosing everybody that we disagree with. It's not a safe thing.
Yeah, agreed. Well, here's another one. Toxic has become another of the internet's favorite relationship words.
Yeah.
We have a toxic workplace. We have a toxic family. We have toxic friendships, toxic positivity.
Yeah.
We even added it to positivity.
Yep.
Toxic masculinity, toxic relationships. So can behaviors be toxic? Absolutely. But here is what worries me. When we label people as toxic, we often stop seeing them as human. Psychologists know that the brain naturally categorizes people. It helps simplify the world. It's not your fault. It's just how your brain works. The problem is that oversimplification can become dangerous because people are complicated. Very complicated.
Yeah.
And most people are not entirely good. Most people are not entirely bad. I'm going to say all people are not entirely good and all people are not entirely bad.
Yeah.
People are human. The better question isn't, is this person toxic? The better question might be, does this relationship bring out the best version of either of us? That's a much more useful question.
So much more useful.
Yeah, because it moves us away from judgment and toward discernment. And discernment is one of the most valuable skills we can develop. Many people in your world aren't meant to stay in your world. And it's not because they're toxic, but simply because they aren't a fit. That's okay too.
We grow and we change in life, and sometimes we outgrow people and sometimes they outgrow us. But a disagreement that ends a relationship does not allow you to call someone toxic. There's an accountability piece there. We've simply outgrown each other is a perfectly fine reason that somebody's not friends with each other anymore.
Yeah, it's really turned into, if you disagree with me, you're toxic. That is so scary when we start saying that. Again, we've watered it down. These are all very serious words.
Yeah.
And we have to be careful how we use them because your words can be weapons.
Absolutely. And I'm going to talk about abuse and bullying. This might be the most important section of today's conversation because abuse is real and bullying is real. And both of these things deserve to be taken very seriously, which is exactly why accuracy matters. Abuse involves patterns of power and control, manipulation, fear, coercion, isolation, domination, not isolated disagreements, not uncomfortable feedback, not conflict, but patterns. Bullying follows a similar pattern. Bullying isn't simply someone being rude. Bullying involves repeated behavior designed to intimidate, humiliate, or dominate another person. Why does this distinction matter? Because words lose power when they lose meaning. When we use abuse or bullying to describe every uncomfortable interaction, we are unintentionally minimizing the experience of people who have genuinely endured those realities. At the same time, we remove opportunities for our own growth. Sometimes someone challenges us. Sometimes someone gives feedback. Sometimes someone tells us something we don't want to hear, and that can hurt. But hurt and harm are not always the same thing. That distinction matters a lot.
That's huge. So let's talk about the word boundaries, because boundaries may be one of the most misunderstood concepts in modern self-development. And I say that as someone who deeply believes in healthy boundaries. A boundary is not about controlling someone else's behavior. A boundary is about deciding what you will do. Here's a healthy boundary. If yelling begins, I will leave the conversation. Here's control. You are not allowed to yell. You see the difference. One focuses on your own behavior. One attempts to control their behavior. Real boundaries require accountability. Real boundaries require consistency. And most importantly, real boundaries require discomfort. Because enforcing a boundary means accepting that other people have free will and can do as they choose. They get to make their choices just like you get to make your choices. That's even the choices that we don't like them making. That can be uncomfortable, but discomfort is not danger, and discomfort is often growth.
Yeah. But nobody likes to be uncomfortable.
It surprises me how many people are very uncomfortable with setting their own boundaries.
Yeah.
Consistency, I think, is actually the number one word. You and I deal with so many people with boundaries because of our coaching business. It's amazing how consistency is so difficult for some people, because just use the yelling example. Okay, so if I let you yell at me and I don't leave the conversation, I'm not being consistent.
You're reinforcing a pattern.
Absolutely.
That boundary is not a real boundary because you're letting me cross it. We have our boundary episodes. You can go back and listen to more about boundaries. I think that it's not the setting of boundaries that makes people uncomfortable. It's the decision that you have to make if somebody then jumps right over that boundary. Nobody likes that enforcement aspect of the boundary. That's the really uncomfortable thing.
Some people don't even like the fact that they have to state their boundaries.
Oh, you should just know.
Wait, I have to tell you that if you yell at me, I'm going to walk away from the conversation. Exactly. You and I wouldn't know, because sometimes people think we're yelling when we're not, because we're just loud and
very
boisterous
passionate.
people. Not heated. I'm just excited, or I'm just passionate. If you raise your voice, I will leave. I'd have a hard time with somebody like that, though, because I'm always raising my voice. You got to state the boundary, and then when it happens, you have to walk away, because here's the hardest thing for people. You state the boundary, then they do it, you ignore it. So they're like, well, that didn't mean anything.
Yeah.
And then the next time they do it, you enforce it and you walk away and they're like, I'm so confused.
Yeah. And it's easy to get confused with control too, because it does sound easier to just tell somebody else not to do something than to sit in your own discomfort and enforce a boundary.
Yeah.
We don't get to control those other people.
No, unfortunately.
Today's episode really comes down to this. We're talking about capacity. Raquel's work resonates with me so much because she challenges the assumption that life should become easier. Listen, y'all, life is going to life. People will disappoint you. Someone will misunderstand you. Someone will probably reject you, and someone will criticize you, and someone will leave. This is life. The question is not, can I avoid these experiences? The question is, can I become the kind of person who can handle those experiences? Psychologists call this distress tolerance. Your ability to experience discomfort without immediately trying to escape it. And research consistently shows that people with higher distress tolerance tend to have healthier relationships, better emotional regulation, greater resilience, and improved mental health. That is capacity. And I'd be remiss if we didn't fit in the 4 agreements here, because it's such a beautiful fit. Let's go over them. Be impeccable with your word. And that includes words we use to describe others. Don't take anything personally. Imagine how many situations immediately become easier when we stop thinking everything is about us. Don't make assumptions. Imagine how many labels disappear when we become curious instead of certain. And always do your best, because your best includes taking responsibility for your own growth. The goal isn't to ignore unhealthy behavior. The goal is not to tolerate abuse. The goal is not to pretend manipulation doesn't exist. The goal is discernment. the ability to tell the difference between discomfort and danger, between conflict and abuse, between challenge and manipulation, between accountability and blame. Because once you develop that discernment, something really powerful happens. You stop needing labels to navigate life. You develop wisdom.
So true.
Yeah.
I have a lot of takeaways from this, but one is if you really want an easier life, you have to increase your capacity for discomfort. You absolutely have to.
Yes.
Because if discomfort bothers you all the time, you're going to have a miserable life. The world has discomfort everywhere if you're looking for it.
Yes.
But if you start realizing that the discomfort is really just information or feedback or data or a chance for knowledge, you're going to have an easier life.
Oh my gosh. Everything changed for me when I started looking at the causes of my discomfort as information, as data, like what you just said. And then it allowed that curiosity to take over. I still have to look up these words because I just put them out of my vocabulary. Initially, when narcissist, I went, oh yeah, Paul's a narcissist because I didn't like him one day. And I'm like, you're selfish and selfish is narcissist. Now I've got this entire label and I'm doing this deep dive into an understanding of a thing that he very clearly is not. We cannot continue to take these words that are so impactful and meaningful when they are true and, like you said, water them down to something meaningless just so that we can feel better about ourselves. That's not the way we're going to improve. We're going to grow. We're going to learn. If other people are the problem, I'm going to label you this, label you that. So that leaves me with zero accountability. You will not grow. Your tree will not grow. Your flower will not bloom. None of this amazing things that life can offer you will happen if you're avoiding this accountability. I just really love this conversation.
This is really important. One of the things that I want us to be aware of is we know there are people that are abusive. There are people that bully. There are people that are narcissist. We understand that. What we want is for the world to be aware when those people do show up. And every time you use one of these words, when it is not that situation, then the people who are the bullies, the abusers, the narcissists, they laugh because they're just being more hidden. So stop using these words in ways that make it easier for the people that are treating people really bad to hide.
Yeah.
I don't think we realize that we're doing that when we use these words. We're just making it easier for them to be like, yeah, nobody's going to notice that I'm a true narcissist because you're calling everyone a narcissist.
Yeah, it perpetuates that. Exactly. And you get this bandwagon of people who don't know you, don't know context. Oh yeah, that sounds like my toxic ex who used to gaslight me. Yeah. And they're using all of these buzzwords because apparently it's just the newest things. My parents were the generation that was like, don't talk about it, suck it up, get over it, doesn't matter, this is life, move on. And now we've gone to the opposite of everybody's everything. Come on, bring it back to center. Yeah. Let's make sure that we are using these words that really matter when they matter and that we are not creating an excuse to avoid our own growth.
I can personally say I have never met a narcissist. I have never been gaslit. I have never been physically abused. I can relate to bullying. As a child, I was bullied. Consistent bullying. I understand the impact versus when people use these words lightly. And it's really annoying. And bullying really did start with children being bullied. In my world, that's where I became aware of it, is it was more talk about internet bullying, kids being bullied. And I know what that's like and what that feels like for a child. It hurts my heart when someone calls somebody else a bully. That is not a word to be messed around with.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Agreed.
And it's usually an adult doing it. Act like an adult and stop using the word bullying when you're not being bullied, you're just being disagreed with.
Yes. That just
really
came up recently. I was talking to an adult in the sales industry who was working with another adult, different generation. And the younger generation person told the older generation person, I think you're bullying me, because she was being asked to help with a situation. And the scenario that was brought to her was not something that she was comfortable doing. It was an uncomfortable conversation To which she said, "You're bullying me. I don't like this," hangs up because she wasn't able to sit in the uncomfortable conversation. And I'm like, oh, this is interesting.
Mhm.
Is it also a generational gap? Is it the social media generation versus any other
Probably.
generation? And the non-social media generation person is the one who brought this to me. She was like, "I was just told I bullied somebody. This is what happened." I found myself having to look up in the dictionary the definition of bully just to make sure I knew what it meant.
Yeah. And you said discomfort is not danger.
Yeah.
Bullying is dangerous.
Yes.
It is psychological manipulation at a high level. It keeps happening. It is over and over. Discomfort is not danger. Let's get clear.
Yeah. Something you don't like
Yeah.
isn't toxic.
Yeah. I feel hurt versus you're trying to actually harm
Yes.
me. These are just such different things. We have to be very careful with this direction that we're going. I'm glad we're having this conversation.
Yeah, the language does matter. Okay, question time.
All right.
You ready? What is one lesson life has had to teach you more than once?
Oh, I'm sure there are many, 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 many. This is going to sound strange. I don't know how to word this any other way. The fact that I'm more important than I realize to the people that love me.
Aw, I understand that.
Okay, good. Like, I want to cry right now. I think I had a very, and I can absolutely use the word toxic. I had a very toxic mother, not physically abusive, but quite mentally abusive. It made me always doubt who I was as a person and that I always had to prove myself as a person. And with the people that love me, I just realized I don't have to do that anymore. But it took a lot of times to learn that lesson. So
No, that is such a beautiful answer.
I think that's the thing, is that I really do truly matter to the people that love me.
Sure enough. Oh, thank you for sharing that. That was so good.
Yeah. Okay. My question for you is, when was the last time you had a head slap? I can't believe I did that moment.
Oh, God. All the time. Okay. I do this all the time, by the way. I use templates. You know, if you do something more than once, you should just create a template for it. When I'm sending out things, I'm using a template because it's just very basic information. But I sent the wrong template to the wrong person for the wrong purpose, if that makes any sense. So
Yeah.
I sent a coaching client a real estate question. You know how you have all your texts in the phone and you choose the wrong Michelle or whatever because you have 17 of them. You're
Yeah.
too busy doing too many things and you think you have it all situated because you took your functional mushrooms this morning. So I will regularly do that. And I'm really good about changing the names. It was for the coaching person. It was just the wrong template. So the context for this person was like, I'm so confused about what we're talking about here. I'm like, how could you be confused? And, oh, that's because nothing I sent you has anything to do with you, except I put your name on it. So sorry,
Yeah.
little like, shit, whoops. You know, I am a professional.
We all mess it up sometimes. Good answer. I like that. All right. Before we go, I want to leave you with one final thought. The strongest people I personally know are not people who never get hurt. Actually, quite the opposite. They're in touch with their emotions, but those are people who learned how to carry hurt without letting it define them. They're people who learned how to experience disappointment without becoming bitter. People who learned how to experience conflict without becoming closed off. They are people who learned how to experience pain without turning it into their identity. And that's the invitation from today's episode. Not to stop using these words, but to stop hiding behind them. Because awareness is powerful, but awareness is only the first step. The real work begins when awareness turns into action, when insight turns into ownership, when understanding turns into growth. And I would even say when you hear someone use these words, double check with them if that's really what they mean. Because if so, we do need to protect the people we know. The goal isn't to become someone who never gets hurt, disappointed, or challenged. The goal is to become someone who can move through those experiences with wisdom, resilience, and grace. Thank you for walking this journey with us. And remember, you are far more capable than you think you are. We'll see you next time on Lessons of the Journey. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Write your lines with passion, let your spirit freely roam. of your journey will lead you safely home.